From the shadowy depths of the city, where justice and mystery intertwine, emerges a broadcast as daring and vigilant as the masked Avenger himself. You are tuned in to the Green Hornet Case Files, unveiling the legacy and cultural significance of one of the greatest crime fighters of all time. Now, let the adventure begin. Here are your hosts, Corey and Greg.
See the buzz. I love it.
The buzz, man. Episode 16.
16.
We had to count.
We had to count multiple times because I counted wrong.
That's all right. The bonus episode in there doesn't count. Well, I guess technically it would count, but it's a bonus episode.
Yeah. So you caught me on that one because I did count it.
It's all right. Hi, everybody. I'm Greg.
And I am Corey.
And this is Green Hornet Case Files. We have...
I'm excited for this one. This is a good episode.
We have an exciting episode for this time around.
So check this out, people.
Okay.
All right. It's my favorite time of year. I like the spooky, right?
Uh-huh.
I like the creepy. I like the horror. That's my jam. I talked Greg into doing a little seance here. and bringing back, see if we can't contact the ghost of Van Williams.
You suppose?
That's what I want to do.
It is. We're doing this episode just a week prior to Halloween.
Yeah, it's my favorite time of year.
Yeah.
Absolutely love it.
And there are some magical things happening in the studio tonight.
Right. We got the candles lit.
You have to put away the playing cards, though, okay?
Yeah.
Because otherwise we'll start playing gin or strip poker or something, and I...
But we're gonna put on our full Houdini here, or Madame Blavatsky.
Madame Blavatsky. Hey, before we actually get into this extra special episode, I did want to mention we asked some questions last episode from people.
Oh, yeah.
And, we got a couple of answers from some people, and I just didn't get quite what I thought we might get out of that.
Okay. All right. Well, you haven't shared any of it with me. Well, you've had a lot going on, though.
I've had a lot going on here in the last couple of weeks. And what I want to do, though, is just throw that back out to the gang.
Okay.
We had
some
questions.
Answers, please.
Yeah, we had some questions that we were asking, and you had a special way of asking the one in regards to, I was saying, what's wrong with the Green Hornet? It's not really what's wrong with the Green Hornet.
It's what can we do to help it move into the now.
Yeah.
Keep it relevant. How do we help it?
And if you can jump in and, send us an email, podcast@greenhornet66.com, or make a comment on
any of the socials.
One of the socials or anywhere. Just, let us know what you think the Hornet needs to be a relevant pop culture figure in the 2020s. Is that what it is?
It's the 20s, yeah. It's just hard to say the 20s because you're like, well, there's not near enough flapper girls anymore.
Well, back in the 20s.
It was roaring. I don't feel like it's roaring right now.
It's not roaring right now.
It's puttering. We're in the puttering 20s.
The puttering. I like that. The puttering 20s.
So, but did we get any responses to the question I asked about whether or not, keeping in theme with this time of year, could the Hornet benefit from being involved in a supernatural story, or is that too far outside the realm?
I think we had one.
Okay.
And I'll be really honest, at the moment I don't have it in front of me.
But I'm sure they were like, no.
Actually, I think I think it would work.
Oh,
I think it was a positive as to how that would go.
I expected a lot of negative feedback from that question, to be honest with you.
And I can see it from both sides.
Yeah, same.
Again, as a writer especially, I can see it from both sides. I will find that from whoever it was, and we'll share that next episode. But again, is that something that you think that could happen? We talked about the Batman Cape Crusader, where they, in 2 different episodes, crossed over a little bit into that supernatural realm, enough that I saw a lot of flying around on socials.
Yeah.
Would that work for the Hornet or no?
See, I think it would, but I don't want to color your opinion. I want to get some feedback before we really dive into it. But
Yeah. All right. Something extra special, as Corey was talking about, trying to do a little divination here, doing a little, the veil is thin at this time of year.
Is.
And we would like to reach through the ages.
Right back into the past.
Yeah.
Pull it forward.
We have had conversations, and I know one of the very first things that we've talked about this, and one of the very first comments that we had was expecting to hear us do a 1966 recap of every episode.
Yeah.
And we want to do that at some point in time. Maybe as we get further down the road and we run out of things to chat about.
But if you hear one of those episodes, don't assume that's why.
Yeah, exactly. We've had Bill Dozier's daughter on the show.
Yep.
We've had Martin Grams on the show. We've talked to Ron Fortier.
Phil
Hester. And Jim Beard here recently. Ben was on the show, a couple of Ben Bentley from the Batman 66 forum. And, we've kind of been dancing around some of these other people. And how great would it be to be able to talk to Van Wiggums?
Right.
How incredible would it be to get Van to sit down in the studio and
just pick his brain.
Talk.
Yeah.
Let's go back to the end of the year of
94, I believe you said.
1994.
Yeah.
30 years ago.
How are you, Greg?
Tell me about the Green Hornet. How did that wind up in your lap?
Well, it was kind of a fluke, to be honest with you, because I had done a pilot for a series for that year for 4-Star called Pursue and Destroy, where I played a commander of a submarine during World War II, and it was a high-budget pilot, and we had Dame Edith Evans and a whole bunch of top stars on it, and they did it as a 2-hour movie, and it was scheduled to go in to, on the September deal. It was scheduled in. And as it got closer and closer to the time for everybody to commit to everything, it was going to turn out to be a very, very expensive series, because whoever was going to be the sponsor had to buy a submarine. And
had to buy a submarine?
An actual submarine.
Wow.
Because we had to match shots that were shot in World War II film footage of actual combat stuff with submarines and stuff being fired. And the conning tower had been changed on almost all submarines except 2. And there was 2 of them left that weren't snorkelized, because these were diesel electrics. And they had snorkelized all of them where they could run submerged but still run on the diesels to generate the batteries and everything else for submerged work.
Mm-hmm.
And they changed the whole entire conning tower so nothing matched. So they were going to have to buy one of those, supply a 20-man crew to run it, and we were going to have to go out, probably 6 to 8 weeks a year and shoot all this stuff. And it scared some people off, so it didn't go. And then, so here I am. It's now June. I don't have a series for that year because they pulled the rug out from under it. And they had not gotten the Green Hornet. Well, I didn't even know about the Green Hornet. I mean, I had listened to the radio show and everything else.
Sure, like all of us, yeah.
Yeah, and a good buddy of mine had done, Adam West had done Batman, and I had seen a couple of those and whatever. And it came up, and evidently ABC decided, hey, we don't have a series for him, let's put him into the Green Hornet. So I went over and talked to Dozier, and there was no way I was going to do that show the way that they had done Batman, because I thought they had done a total 100% getaway from the original Batman, with the way we were playing it and everything else. And I just could not see, because I was a big fan of the Green Hornet radio show, and I just could not see them playing that way. So when he and I sat down, it was one of those deals where Dozier said, we're not going to do it that way. We're going to play it straight, and this, that, and the other. So my agent, who had worked a heck of a deal with 4-Star, started wheeling and dealing on that. And to be honest with you, I didn't really relish doing that show. I thought it was going to be a real tough thing to, if it didn't have a long run, to get out of it and get away from it, just like Adam has had a problem with. But to make a long story short, I ended up doing it. And they offered me a good deal on it, and I finally did it, the whole bit. And I really stuck to my guns on it. I was not going to change anything. We were going to play that thing straight. I got a lot of criticism from George Trindle and other people that were doing it, that I wasn't, there wasn't enough fun in it, and this, that, and the other. There wasn't enough romance. And, of course, the major problem they had with the show from the beginning was to sell it as a half hour. Trying to get the Green Hornet, Britt Reed, all of the stuff, all the gimmicks and everything else into it in a half hour was an impossibility. And this was one of my main complaints when I went in to see Dozier, and he said, yeah, we're going to be working on that. We're going to be shooting some hour shows, in other words, 2 half-hour split. But Batman had a different way of doing it. They split their show in half hours, but they did it Wednesday and Thursday. And they had not done a show from Friday to Friday with a two-parter, and they were scared to death of it. But towards the end of the show, or somewhere in the middle, we did do some hour shows to say, this is what we need to get all of this stuff in that you want, and here's the way it needs to be done. And Dozier supposedly went back to ABC in New York and said, okay, we've done 3 hours, and this is what we need. We're going to do it that way, or we're not going to do it because I can't afford to do it. So it went right down to the wire, I guess, and they said, no, we're going to leave it as it is because we got a half-hour show against 2 hours, and you're beating your time slot, and we're going to leave it that way. So the whole thing just politically kind of faded. And it was kind of surprising because the show did have a pretty good rating. And it has one heck of a lot of loyal fans that I've found after almost 30 years, that I did 5 other television series that were very popular and whatever, and nobody hardly even remembers those. But for some reason, probably because of Bruce and the way the show was done and whatever, we've got a very loyal fan club out there. It's not like Batman or Star Trek or those, but there is a lot of big supporters. And I appreciate that.
Dude. That's all I can say. It's all like it's my first time hearing this stuff. And
1994.
And let's just take a second to appreciate the fact that he has given us the perfect name for this episode.
Yeah.
Because we have when it's taking place, right now. And the first thing he talks about is being on a show that they needed to purchase a submarine. So this is the hunt for Green October.
With special guest
Van Williams.
I think I've told this story on here before. I had met Adam West through a local radio station that I was managing at the time and doing the morning show for. And Adam had come through, lived in Walla Walla, which is about 40 miles up the road.
Yeah.
And Adam had come through to do a speech at the local college. And I couldn't go that night, but we ran out to the hotel and we had a nice get-together, a little cup of coffee, whatever, and meet up. My son, who is 8 at the time, gets to meet Batman. Adam West. I got to meet Batman. Adam West. Pictures taken, the whole thing, and it was a lovely evening. And we then moved, or we were out here. We went back to Kansas, where my wife and I are from.
Yeah.
And we did Thanksgiving. And
that's right.
Yeah,
that's right.
it was a Thanksgiving. And as we're flying back out to Washington State, we flew through Dallas-Fort Worth, where Adam and Van had just done a show in Dallas,
so awesome.
DFW. And I saw Adam across the way, across the concourse, and walked over said hi. We stood and talked for a while. What are you doing? Oh, Thanksgiving. Oh, it's nice to see you. We just did the show. Have you met my friend, Van Williams?
Wow.
And nobody was paying any attention to Van at the time because everybody wanted to talk to Batman.
Yeah.
A few were.
Right.
So Van and I got to talking off to the side, and we exchanged information. I work for a local radio station, or Adam had said Greg works, does a morning show. You guys ought to get together and interview or something. So we exchanged information, did the whole thing, and this is, I called him up a couple of months later. I'll tell more of the story here after we get back into
the next little
bit here.
But I'm excited because this, along with you listening right now, this is my first time hearing all this, so I'm super stoked on all this.
Yeah, let's go back again.
Yeah, but there's not the enthusiasm it is. Surfside 6 with Troy Donahue, that show was a top hit for 3 years, and it was black and white.
Mm-hmm.
That may be one of the problems, but it's never had the longevity that this show has had, and I don't understand it. Of course, the production value that went into the Green Hornet was excellent, and you can put it on now against a lot of stuff, and it holds up. And maybe that's where we failed on the other shows, but it's just amazing to me what kind of following there is and how much the people know about it and follow it. And like I said, it's probably a lot of with Bruce. Bruce, lent a great deal to that show with the kids and the kung fu and stuff, and his Jeet Kune Do and Jeet Kune Do, I should say.
So he's alluding to Master Lee at this point in time. What's interesting though about that is that my wife and I have discovered Surfside 6.
Oh, you were telling me about this.
Yeah, we managed to find copies of Surfside 6, I don't know where, someplace, and some of it's really bad. I mean, it's terrible quality on some of these things. But I can't remember the name of the other actors. 3 of them, the 3 principals in the thing. Besides Troy Donahue and Van, there's name is gone at this point. But
podcast at Green Hornet 66.
Yeah, exactly. But Van had come to that show. The character on the show actually came from another series that was called Bourbon Street Beat. And that character transitioned to Surfside 6.
Like the character moved
Yeah.
From New Orleans.
Yeah, exactly. From New Orleans to Florida. But it was the exact same character.
Okay.
Exact same character. They liked the character so much that when they put this show together and Bourbon Street ended, they moved over here into Surfside 6.
That's awesome.
So it was really fun to have him talk about the fact that they did 3 seasons, and it's a really good show. There's some really good stuff that's included in it, and how Green Hornet
just eclipses it completely.
Yeah, with 1 season.
Yeah.
With just 1 season. So the setup now is he's mentioned Bruce.
Yeah. So you're going to jump on that one.
So let's find out.
That was the first show he'd ever done. And, you know, for only doing 26 shows, that's not enough exposure to really get a great thing going, though he had a big following, and so did the show. But then it kind of died for a while. They were at it 5 days a week out here, and you know, there was a lot of things going, but I jumped to another show, and Bruce went on and did his thing and whatever, and then finally he had to end up going to Hong Kong to get into something that was really going to showboat him. And it did, and you can see what became of him when somebody finally gave him, you know, a chance to do his stuff, but it had to go to Hong Kong to do it.
Isn't that an interesting thought? That we know Bruce now as
Bruce Lee.
Bruce Lee.
Yeah.
This iconic figure. Marilyn, James Dean, Bruce Lee.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%.
And he was a total unknown.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And I mean, we all know that's the story of, you know, him trying to get kung fu going and all these other things all at the same time. But it's you got to think of it from that perspective. That time, he wasn't Bruce Lee.
Yeah.
I mean, he had it. He had everything he needed to be Bruce Lee, but it hadn't happened yet.
Right.
So,
And he talks a little bit more
okay,
about Bruce.
I want to hear it.
I think he started the thing because it had been done a little bit, not much.
Mm-hmm.
And then, he electrified an audience out there that said, wow, here's this little guy that can do all this stuff and jump and kick and do everything, and it was a whole new concept. But it didn't last long enough to launch his whole career here. It gave him a foothold, and then he did that thing on
Longstreet.
Right. And he was pretty disappointed with that. And then, a couple of 3 years went by, and he got this offer for nothing to go to Hong Kong to do a show. And, he went over there, and he did it, and boom, just like magic, he was a worldwide star.
And it took Raymond Chow, right?
Yeah, Golden Harvest.
Golden Harvest,
yeah,
to make that happen. Interesting that he talked about Longstreet just really briefly. Have you seen the show?
I haven't.
Okay. James Franciscus played the character of Longstreet, who was a blind. I forget what he was at the time. I think he was either a lawyer or he wound up being like an insurance investigator or some sort of an investigator.
Okay.
But he was blind.
So he's Daredevil.
Kind of Daredevil.
Okay.
And Bruce, in the first 5 episodes, I believe, is the mentor.
Oh, okay.
And basically shows him Jeet Kune Do, the way of the intercepting fist.
Mm-hmm.
Empty your mind.
The philosophies start to come
does
through.
the whole philosophy is starting to come through at that. So if you get a chance, find Longstreet. Those rest of the series is absolutely fabulous.
Mm-hmm.
But it's without Bruce. First 5 episodes.
So that's that one's completely lost. New to me. I had never really encountered it. So
okay, all right.
That's yay! I love learning new stuff.
Anything with Bruce,
right?
Anything with Bruce. It wasn't in this interview. I remember that Van and I had talked a couple of other times, and in one of those chats, I don't know if I still have those. I'll have to see if I can locate them. But he talked about Bruce in kind of an annoying sort of way.
So I'm trying to think of the best way to phrase that.
Okay.
In the kind of annoying in the way of that little bugger completely outshone me in history.
No.
Okay.
Just the fact that
just Bruce's energies.
Bruce was so energetic.
Yeah.
Van and I've actually seen him do this on like interviews on YouTube.
Yeah.
Where he talks about the fact that he would be standing talking to someone and all of a sudden his ear would get flicked and it would be Bruce throwing a kick and kicking just the earlobe. And, after he'd done it, a dozen times.
You little son of a...
I just want to...
You know what's funny is Bruce was just kinetic energy enough.
He was.
That I can see where it could get really annoying.
Do we call that ADHD?
Now, yeah.
Probably.
Yeah,
probably.
But see, folks, that's how you harness it.
That's exactly, yeah.
If you focus it right.
Empty your mind.
You have to, because otherwise it won't shut up.
That's right. So in this conversation with Van from 1994, 30 years ago, this month, I believe, or thereabouts. No, it would have been a little later.
It was after Thanksgiving, right?
Yeah, it was after Thanksgiving. We talked a little bit about the fact that the Hornet, again, is still really popular.
We had a lot of popularity and everything else with the show hardly even running. It was just one of these collectibles deals, comic book. A comic book came out and everything else, and it was kind of surprising to see because they've been running that thing since the 1st of June in the major cities 4 times a week. And, to me, that's overexposure and everything else. But I don't think it's really done that. I think it's just slowly but surely brought it back. And like you say, now we're getting a bunch of new fans that are getting very loyal to it. And, I do 4 or 5 shows a year and go out, and I don't have much time to do that. But I really appreciate, like that Dallas show, I really appreciate the people that show up and still have the interest in it and still ask questions, and a lot of them that I can't answer.
Yeah.
Because it's been a long time.
That's it. He answered the question.
What was the question?
So our question, how do we help it move forward?
Yeah.
We got to get it back in front of people.
We got to get it back in front of people.
We got to get that. We got to get the 66 show back in front of people.
Yeah.
Like, I know you can go out and YouTube it, right? Great.
You can.
Fantastic.
You can. Yeah.
But it needs to be on a streaming service, whatever it happens to be. There's got to be something. Like, I know there's a lot of hands in the pot and a lot of disagreements about how we get this, but he just said it. The resurgence, especially in the 90s, we had the Now comic run,
right,
and all of that. Van hit it on the nail on the head. He was like, they're showing it, and it's there again.
Right.
That's all you need. Get it in front of people.
Just get it back in front of people. Get it back in front of people. So one of the things that intrigued me about his comment about being in front of people after, this was 94, the show was in 66.
So it's 30 years.
Yeah, almost 30 years. And he mentions it there that a lot of times the questions that people ask are questions that he doesn't have answers to. And so I said, well, let's go into it. I have a question for you right now.
Sure, Greg.
I'm going to put you on the spot just a little bit. Always seemed to me when the Green Hornet drove the Black Beauty out of his garage.
Yeah.
Okay, he drove through the backyard of his house.
Yeah.
And out through the alley. And how did he get the car back in the garage? Did he back up that alley? Did he back through his...
They never showed it, and I don't know, because that was all done with models. But I'm sure that's what they had to do. Actually, what they could do with it, if you paid attention to the models, you could drive into the front.
Mm-hmm.
But that was going to, tell everybody that, wait a minute now, here's a car that's by the bad guys, is driving into Britt Reed's apartment, because that's what I did. I drove into there with that Chrysler convertible.
Uh-huh.
The clamps came on and the flip over came on, and I drove out the back. But you're right, it had to back in.
That's the only thing I could figure was Cato had to be some heck of a driver. First off. Yeah, that's wonderful.
First off, Cato was one heck of a driver.
Cato was.
2, the answer is a lazy Susan. You pull in and it turns it around.
It turns it around like the Batman,
exactly.
The Batmobile.
Yeah, in the Burton. Right, they had it on the
exactly,
Lazy Susan.
Exactly.
But it's funny because that's yet another example of how times have changed. Is you've got nowadays, let's say Momoa is Aquaman.
Yeah, Jason Momoa. Yeah,
that cat has to go to every press conference.
Yeah,
knowing a Wikipedia's worth of knowledge about the character and all this minutia, because the fans are going to beat down the door about it.
Yeah,
Yeah. But fans like, oh,
this is 94, 30 years ago.
Yeah, it's a whole different time.
Comic-Con and those, I don't even know if Comic-Con was around in 94. It probably was, but. Podcast at greenhornet66.com.
But it was a different thing.
Much different time.
It was a whole different beast. But it's funny to me, that's what I think of when I heard that clip, is I just think about all those cats out there now that have to know, and they don't care one iota. There are the dudes that do. There are the dudes who want that. They're really invested. Your Cavills, your Ryan Reynolds, those guys that just love the character.
Mm-hmm.
I'm cool with that. But do you think that Robert Downey Jr. read a bunch of Iron Man before he got the gig? No.
A lot of them say that. A lot of them say that I was not familiar at all with Charlie Cox. Daredevil these days. Yeah. I just saw Charlie at one of the last Comic-Cons. And that's one of the things that Charlie talked about on stage was, I didn't know anything about Daredevil before.
Right.
Van is talking about the fact that I listened to the radio show. I was a Green Hornet fan.
He was, yeah.
Already.
But it's not required that they know the minutiae is what
that's true. That's true. And but I thought it was a fun question to be able
It
to
absolutely.
ask.
No, I'm glad you did.
And Van was, I know, I get this a lot these days. The actors have to be kind. They should be. Some aren't so, but they have to be fairly kind when they go to shows, to the people.
Yeah.
But this again is '94. It's 30 years ago, and as we kind of wrap this up, Van was talking a little bit about
Dealing with fans.
the people.
Yeah, I met a lot of nice people down there because I'm from there. I'm from Fort Worth.
Mm-hmm.
And I've got a ranch north of Fort Worth, and I'm going to be spending a lot of time down there, and I think I'm going to be doing another one of those shows down there this summer. But it was kind of nice to see. I just got to worry about the smoke thing, but I think if I get into the good clean air up in Idaho and Hawaii, and even out on the ranch is pretty good, this thing will go away and I'll be fine.
I think you will be. We'd like to see the Green Hornet first off go on forever and ever. I'm sure one of these days we'll be talking movie rights. You've got a book maybe in the works.
What was that? What was that?
You getting right there.
Oh. And see, that's something that nobody knows about. I didn't know about it until I re-listened to this, that Van was writing a book.
Oh, man.
I guess we'll have to see where
Where it's going to go.
where-
I know I'm not giving you much here, but oh, my
where-
goodness.
well, that was a big statement.
Yeah.
That was a huge,
That's-
huge statement.
My brain just, wait, what?
And, part of me is like, how do I get a hold of,
Any manuscript or...
Van's family and, his wife Vicky and, I'm sitting here thinking, okay, I know Adam's wife Marcel. I know somebody who knows her really well. I've met her, but not to the point where I could say, could you give me Vicky's from, Mrs. Williams? Any rate, I wanted to throw that in there because that was like a boom.
Yeah, that's
when I was listening to this.
Oh, man, it gives us homework. We got to figure this out.
It most definitely does. What Van was talking about there at the very end was he'd kind of left the business, left the industry.
Yeah.
And he was a sheriff or something for like L.A. County or something for a long time. And he got into a situation where he had some really nasty smoke inhalation, some smoke thing that was happening to him, and really screwed his lungs up really bad. And he went, as we were doing this interview on this particular day, he'd stopped moving to sit and speak with me for this 20, 30-minute period because he was moving out of L.A. to move to Ketchum, Idaho.
Oh, okay.
Where Adam West was living at the same time. Adam said, come on up. And he had properties, like he said, in Hawaii and this ranch in Texas. So he was hoping that the cleaner air
would help
in those places would help in talking about the lungs and the smoke and so forth. But what an incredible time that was.
Oh, man.
To think about that guy.
I am so thankful for this resource. This is awesome.
It's just incredible. And, as we'll wrap up things here just shortly, I just have to say goodbye, okay?
Van Williams.
Thanks, Greg. All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye. All right. I just want to throw that in there.
We can blow out the candles.
And here we are. We're back.
Dude, oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Like I am, wow. So you've been digging through these clips to put this together for this episode, which I have a feeling we're going to get a little lambasted that we hadn't done this sooner. Like, how dare you sit on all this?
Well, I mean, it's 30 years ago. I have interviews that go back, kind of like Martin Graham's. Martin is always talking with, celebrities, and he shows these pictures of himself with, dozens and dozens and dozens of celebrities. And I have that with audio interviews with people that go back to One of the very first interviews that I ever did was with, and I probably mentioned it on here, Vincent Price.
Oh, I don't want to hear that so bad.
And I have this interview with Vincent, and it was one of the first ones, and it was a terrible interview.
You've told me that.
From my perspective, because I'm kind of like, "Hi, Mr. Price."
Yes.
And I said something to him about, how does it feel to be a ghoul? And he's like, I don't think of myself as a ghoul. And anyway,
you weird Midwestern child.
And that one goes back a very long time, well beyond 40 years, 30 years, 40 years.
You hadn't nailed the professionalism yet.
Yeah, I just wasn't there yet. Again, one of the very first ones that I had ever done.
But, oh my goodness, this has been so cool. It's so, well, honestly, it's a little weird to hear it. It's like, oh my goodness, it's right there.
It kind of is. And I want to throw a technical note on top of this. There's a new AI program. Adobe has come up with a new AI program that you can throw audio into, like old audio like this, and the program will make it almost like...
Clean it up.
Yeah, like he was here in the studio with me.
Yeah.
And I was going to do that, and I thought,
Corey will get real mad if I do that.
Well, maybe.
I'm sure that didn't play in at all.
Just that this sounded like a phone interview.
Yeah.
From 30 years ago, as opposed to Van sitting in the studio with us. And I thought that might be a little too weird.
I like the way it sounds.
Okay.
I think you made the right choice. And it's not just my insane hatred for all things artificial intelligence. It's of its time, it's of its place, and that's part of the charm.
Yeah.
Personal opinion.
Yeah, I think so. So there's our tribute to Halloween, All Hallows Eve, whatever you choose to call it.
Absolutely.
And with the veil being thinned, bringing Van Williams back to...
It's a little Samhain miracle.
It is a little Samhain miracle. Yes, it is. The veil, she's thin. We'll do a little bit of research. If you happen to know, you the listener happen to know anything about a potential manuscript of Van's, or you happen to have a contact maybe with his widow Vicky, again, podcast, and
GreenHornet66.com.
Yeah, I'm never shy about reaching out to people and asking questions.
All they can say is no.
All they can say is no. Yeah, you're halfway there already. So, by all means, if you know anything, by all means, get a hold of me, and we'll see what happens with it.
Man, what a rad holiday treat this is.
And I hope everybody enjoyed.
So good. So good.
Is that going to wrap it up for us?
I think that's where we're at. But we have so much more to come. But this one's pretty special. So thanks for doing this one, Greg.
It's always my pleasure, and I'm just we need to see more Green Hornet.
Yep, it's just got to get in front of people's eyes.
We got to get it there. We got to get it there.
You ready to roll?
That's it for this episode 16 of Green Hornet Case Files.
I'm Corey.
I'm Greg.
Let's roll.
Let's roll.
As the night envelops the city once more, our journey through the hidden alleys of history and valor comes to a close. You've been riding shotgun with the Green Hornet Case Files, where the echoes of the past meet the voices of the present. Tune in again for the next thrilling adventure where shadows speak, secrets unfold, and the legacy of the Green Hornet continues to inspire. The Green Hornet Case Files is a Grail Productions podcast. The Green Hornet is owned exclusively by Green Hornet, Inc. Until next time, vigilant listeners, keep your wits sharp and your spirit unbreakable.